I denne utgaven av Dronemagasinet skal du høre mer om hvordan droner har spilt en rolle når orkanen Ian stormer over Florida for et par uker. You ready? So, good afternoon. You are Sergeant Dooley from Florida Highway Patrol. Yes. Explain to us why we are here.
This is Hurricane Ian. We're over here on the west coast of Florida. We're providing, this unit right here is providing unmanned aerial vehicle support throughout this devastated area, both in central Florida and on the coast of Florida.
So explain to us what kind of assets you have in there and what kind of role they have been playing throughout the last few days for you.
So primarily we've had manned aviation in the air. We're utilizing our mobile downlink to pipe it into our unmanned aerial vehicle command band. We've had UAV assets, unmanned aerial vehicles all over the place, doing a lot of mainly search and rescue and assessing where the critical needs are. The primary function in Central Florida has been to not only find those areas, but try to figure out how to get resources to them because of all the flooding. That's been a challenge, but the UAVs have been able to go out places where no one can get to, and then we assess whether we need to bring in airboats, whether we need to bring in front-end loaders to move roadways, earth, different things of that nature, just to make sure we can get not only assets to them, but also get those people out of there.
Let's move into the car. You told me, Dooley, that you also have integrated your drone footage together with all assets in air. How have you been working on getting all those data into one operational concept?
So we operate on a streaming platform that allows us to pull in multiple different feeds. As we progress and start learning how to do all that, so that right there is our aircraft feed. That's manned aviation up above. He's out surveying the total area, and then once he spots something that he thinks is of interest, we can push our drone team into that area to fine-tune search or fine-tune get better data in a timely fashion.
What has been the greatest reward for you, but also the greatest challenge for you throughout this hurricane?
I can tell you that I can't even think of a reward right now other than just doing my job and serving. But the biggest challenges have been, obviously it's hard to get to places. So we want to make sure that we locate all the critical needs. We had areas that could not call for help. So that was a challenge. I'm trying to get familiar with the area quickly so that we can go and find areas that have the need. So that's been the hugest challenge. It's starting to stabilize in the manner of which we think we've identified most of the critical need areas and have addressed at least something with them to either get them out, get resources to them. But in a nutshell, the biggest challenge is just basically getting the people. That's the hardest part. But the UAV technology has been invaluable, getting up and over water, up and over trees, to spot things that we can actually provide resources to.
And you said also that your connectivity had been an issue, so you were using Starlink then for the connectivity. Tell me a little bit about that satellite connectivity, what it has given you.
Starlink has kind of changed the game for us. Normally we operate with cell signal, and unfortunately in devastated areas there is none until they start bringing in those resources. And we were accessing the internet and being able to stream things within minutes of our arrival instead of waiting for other additional like AT&T, Verizon, and everybody else, which they've been great. They've brought a tremendous amount of resources to the area, but we've been able to, we were off to the races and up and running very quickly with the Starlink.
So what kind of speed have you been given with that satellite communication?
It depends where you're at, but it's been more than enough to get data up so that the decision makers can get it. The whole point of this is not for me to make a decision. I'm the operator. The whole point of it is to be able to get that information to the decision makers, whether they be at the state EOC in Tallahassee at our state capitol, or they're on the ground. That's been the most critical part of it, is just to get that information to the decision makers. I've not seen anything where we've had issues with the speed, but we're averaging at our peak about 180 megs a second, and even some areas just depends on tree coverage and whatnot. I think the lowest I've seen is about 80 megs a second.
Last question, but a very important one. How are you maintaining flight safety through an operation where so many airborne assets are in air at the same area?
So first and foremost, we're going to check our sectional charts to check the temporary flight restrictions that are established. We've had quite a few throughout the past couple of days. But in a nutshell, it all starts with communication. If you're not communicating with each other, we're going to have problems regardless of what's going on. Primarily checking section charts, working with the local EOCs to see what assets are in the area, and then we go out in two-man teams. You have your pilot and then you have your visual observer. The visual observer has their head on a swivel. They're constantly looking for aerial assets. The biggest challenge with that, regardless of the best planning, is all the manned aviation, mainly helicopters, that are dipping down low, either to come in for a landing to provide some type of resource or to evac somebody out, or they're performing a search and rescue operation at a lower altitude. So that's things that have been a challenge for us. We try to get out of their way as quickly as possible. They're more important, obviously, in the United States. We have, as UAV operators, we have to make way for our manned aviation. So we'll create a safe flight environment for them, get out of their way, and when they leave, we'll go back up and continue operations.
So if we have another hurricane or a disaster in this region, are there any kind of technology that you are missing, that you are not having available now, that you would like to see the industry provide for you?
We've got a lot going on, and the UAV industry as a whole provides a myriad of different things that we can use. It's just the challenge with that is not only discovering it, that it's available, but how do you implement it into your job, right? How do you implement it into your recovery efforts and your rescue efforts? So it's doing things ahead of time. So instead of waiting for disaster to strike and then discovering the need, we work throughout the year to make sure that we have the things we need. At least try to plan as best as humanly possible to get those things to those areas, and we're fully functional when we get there.
Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure.
Det du ser her, det er egentlig nok så spektakulært. I mange hundre meter, 500-600 meters rekke, så er det altså trailer og lastebiler som er blitt linet opp med husvogner kun for de ansatte i Florida Powerline. Bak her er store telt med catering, og her er det altså da flere tusen arbeidere, en liten by nesten, som er blitt rigget opp. Alt for å gjøre at de raskest mulig skal greie å få på plass igjen strømmen til de mange millionene i området som har vært uten strøm de siste dagene. Her går altså det i 24 timers skift, og her kommer de fra hele landet for å hjelpe. Vi har en form for støtteordning som gjør at energiselskapene hjelper hverandre, så her har de bare mobilisert det de kan. Her kommer folk inn, registrerer seg, parkerer bilene, og så blir de sendt ut til nærmeste område. Og dronene brukes ofte for å hjelpe dem med å finne ut hvor er det egentlig behovet er størst. På mange steder så finnes det jo ikke veier som hjelper de akkurat til å komme frem, og da hjelper dronene til å få oversikt.
Safe to Fly, en app for alle brukere av droner. Tjenesten er alltid oppdatert og enkel å bruke, slik at du finner all informasjon du trenger på ett sted. Fly sikkert. Alltid.
You probably don't want to tell Erica.
So Chris, tell us where we are. We just passed the local security point here in Fort Myers.
We are entering Fort Myers Beach. You're going to see the area up ahead where Hurricane Ian came ashore. There's going to be significant devastation from the storm surge that came ashore, as well as some wind damage. And you will be able to see boats and structures. And I mean, here we have some on the right side. It looks like they're starting to clean it up a little bit, but yeah, we are just getting into the impact zone of Hurricane Ian.
So drone responder have played an important role here, coordinating a number of drone operations. Tell us a little bit about the background for how drone responder engaged in this kind of hurricane.
Sure. We've got a Florida Public Safety Coordination Group, or FLOGRU as it's known, and we basically created this group among Florida public safety agencies about a year ago in preparation not just for a significant event like Hurricane Ian, but to help coordinate everyday operations in public safety throughout the state of Florida and educate teams on how to operate safely and successfully within the regulatory confines of both the FAA and Florida statute. So this has been kind of the first test of us to get all the resources out. We have components from around Florida public safety agencies who are here in Southwest Florida performing different missions ranging from damage assessment to mapping to imagery collection, live streaming, security, bridge assessment, infrastructure assessment, you name it. So it's been a busy week. so far.
I was told earlier that more than 500 missions had been completed, but there has been a lot of tasks that has been organized throughout this week here. What is the challenge when you have multi-agency operating and trying to organize so many different tasks in one region?
Sure. I mean, the main challenges are just coordination and communication, making sure everyone's on the same page, that we are planning the operations and not duplicating efforts, and also using the resources efficiently to accomplish the mission at hand. So it's always a little chaotic in the early days of a hurricane landfall, and I think we're at the point now where the situation is starting to stabilize, and we're going to see successful outcomes coming from the missions that will be performed at this point forward.
There seems to be quite a number of medias here as well. Hurricanes like this draws a lot of attention, but that also means that you get attention from people who are volunteers signing up that would like to assist you in or in the aftermath of hurricanes like this.
Yeah, there are no doubt that events like this drive a lot of interest, both from the general public, from the volunteer community, from corporate patrons who want to assist and do whatever they can to help those who are afflicted, and we're certainly seeing that here with the landfall of Hurricane Ian in Southwest Florida.
But is that a challenge? I mean, you're saying that you do have a lot of resources in place that can be utilized, but are you able to use volunteers that just sign up that wants to help you?
Our organization typically doesn't use what they call spontaneous volunteers. We like to have a little bit of a track record in training with them, but there are several organizations from the United Way to the Red Cross who definitely, Team Rubicon, looking to onboard spontaneous volunteers on the spot. So those are starting to come aboard.
I must say that it's makes quite an impression for me to see, Chris, here what we just passed here. You've been working with drones and also through a number of hurricanes before, and this is not the first time you've seen this area in Fort Myers. But what is your expression? How would you explain what you see here?
There is significant devastation, and we're not even in the worst part yet. When we go over this bridge up here, we will actually be on Fort Myers Beach. So this looks bad, and there's no doubt it is bad, but it's going to get worse as we move forward. So it's going to take quite a while for this area to rebuild, and they're going to need support from everyone to make it happen.
So how important, or has it been important with the data coming from drones in the work where now responders are then trying to figure out where is what and what has been impacted and which regions?
Yep, the information from drones is headed to FEMA. It's headed to local emergency management offices, and from all indications, it's proven extremely useful. So I would have to stop up here.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's Lance right there.
That's your colleague.
Oh no, that's not. I'm gonna put this down.
Yeah. Oh wow, never seen anything like this before, but this is massive. It just seemed like they've been thrown ashore here, all the boats here, Chris.
That's the entire shrimping fleet over there. That's been washed ashore.
So this is the bridge to what used to be Fort Myers?
Fort Myers Beach, yep.
What can we expect on the other side?
I would say we can expect devastation. You can see some of it over here on the right side of the car and the left side. So it has significantly changed the landscape of
yeah, and this is the coastline community that we see here.
Yep, this is the beach where the storm surge came ashore and wreaked absolute havoc.
Because what we see now in front of us is just sand, beach, and what is actually the rest of.
Yeah, we should probably hold off on filming till we get situated.
Yeah, I will do that.
on the right.
I did not see a walkway bridge. Is that when we come over the main bridge onto Fort Myers Beach?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we'll turn around and look for you. I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. Because it's it's unfortunate. It's scary as hell.
So Chris, we are moving on the beach here on Fort Myers. We're meeting some of your teams from drone responders. What kind of challenges do they face when they are operating in an environment like this where there are so many agencies trying to collaborate?
Well, I mean, the first thing they have to do is get in and set up security and safety of the actual first responders. And I think that's been done. Now it's really getting an operational cadence and battle rhythm in coordinating the search, the preliminary search, the secondary search, making sure that they've accounted for any potential survivors, and then of course going in and looking for potential victims. So air traffic coordination continues to be an issue in these types of responses. How do drones talk to manned aviation and helicopters? And learning experiences are going to be coming out of this undoubtedly. We're still in the first week of the response, but in the months to come, we're going to learn a lot of stories about ways we can probably improve these operations, and hopefully the next time a storm comes, we'll be able to do a better job in how we respond to that storm.
So I know it's really early possibly to talk about this, but do you already now see a repetition of challenges that you are facing throughout crisis like this where drones are deployed, or are you able to in a way move forward and see that drones are easier deployed and used?
I think it's the flying the actual aircraft is the easiest part. It's the planning, the logistics, and the coordination that remain to be the challenges, and convincing stakeholders within the incident command system of what the value proposition is and why they want this drone imagery. So there's incremental lessons that are learned in pockets, and what we try to do at Drone Responders is then consolidate those lessons into information that can be shared and large with all of our members to make sure that the problems we face here don't continue to be faced in future.
Yeah, because I heard some officer mentioned earlier today that possibly on missions like this, where there is constantly new people every day, it also means that literally every day they need to talk about the advantages, but also how drones can be utilized in operations like this. Is it a battle to actually more or less convince the community,
there's always some battle on some level depending on the personalities of the people involved and their experience. I mean, some are more some welcome technology with open arms, some are more afraid of new tech, and we've still got to prove the use cases for a lot of audiences to make them feel comfortable with using drones and the value proposition that it delivers. So I think we've made a lot of progress, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done.
We moved now a few kilometers down what used to be Fort Myers Beach, one of the most popular tourist attractions in this area. Compared to previous hurricanes that you've been covering with your drones, how does this in a way relate to previous ones that you've been involved in?
Sure. I mean, what we're seeing here is just massive devastation from the storm surge. This was water that rushed in and reached a height of, in some reports, 18 feet. Previous hurricanes have really been largely wind events, at least the ones I've covered, with the exception of Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas. This reminds me of Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas, where you see, especially here in Fort Myers Beach, both the impact of wind and the impact of storm surge really delivering a 1-2 blow to the community.
And 18 feet, is that like half up to the concrete mast that we see on the right-hand side, or?
Yeah, it almost. It's about 6 meters. It's high. It's. I mean, if you're in the bottom floor of your home and you go to the attic to seek refuge, that might not be high enough. And we're hearing reports that they may be finding some people who got trapped in their attics. I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I think we should all expect to hear some disheartening news in the days and weeks to come.
So what kind of tools do one need here? I guess that this is also a way of identifying needs that also the drone industry need to provide to for instance, first responders and also then the end users. Is it too early to say something about the needs?
Well, I think we're learning that, again, the technology we have is good for where we're at in the product life cycle, but we need to really look at how we use these types of systems in austere environments and capitalize on autonomy and some of the other attributes that the systems will be delivering in the future. So
let's hear more about that when we step outside. I see you have pulled over to the side here, and this is also one of the areas where the storm has been really hitting hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Her ser en resultatet av Ian. Ødeleggelsene er jo helt enorme. Politiet som er her nå, de er rundt og leter for å se hvilke områder som de skal mappe og kartlegge, altså ved hjelp av dronerne. Det har de gjort nå i flere dager. Mens de holder på med dette, så pågår altså da et nytt søk hvor de nå leter etter folk som har omkommet her. Og det gjør de rett og slett med å lete gjennom hunder som er spesialtrent. Og da er det spesielt områder som i de høyereliggende delene av byggene som de søker etter, hvor folk har søkt tilflukt. De sier det politifolkene her at folk søkte tilflukt altså i loft og prøvde å søke å komme seg så høyt opp som de kunne for å prøve å være i trygghet. Men det greide ikke alle, dessverre. So Chris, is it possible to prepare for events like this?
You can prepare for events like this. But you can never fully be prepared for events like this.
So, what's the next step? I mean, there are lessons learned, as we talked about in the car a few minutes ago. There's a number of teams and agencies who is playing a role here in utilizing drone, but also the data from that here. Have you trained, or is it a culture for training together with multi-agency in the US?
We do train and exercise, and we have annual hurricane exercises, but to the scope and the massivity of this incident, there's no way to exercise or prepare for this. So you can train elements of the response effort, but the holistic levity of what we're seeing here is just beyond the comprehension and the scope of most exercises would be able to accommodate.
So, talking with the number of now UAV pilots from different type of police department that we've been meeting throughout the day here in Fort Myers, it seems like some of the major challenges is related to sharing the data, but also the communication between air and drone operators. Is that something which is unique for events like this because of the scale, or is this something that is also a trend in other parts of the US?
Well, I mean, for a smaller incident, it's easy to share data, right? When you were looking at like Surfside, for example, was about a half acre to an acre site. It was a horrible incident in a confined space. We had good infrastructure, good connectivity. It was easy to share data. The breadth and depth of this response to Hurricane Ian, with the lack of infrastructure and the amount of agencies that are dispersed over a large geographic area, just makes it extremely challenging. Headway is coming. We're making some progress in getting the data where it needs to go, but to really get the data from the drone to the end user continues to be a challenge, and that's where we need to see some improvements in the years to come.
So let's say that we were having the same type of talk here a few years ahead of us. What would you say would be the most important lessons learned from events like this?
Well, I think we're going to see the capability of autonomy to be able to send drones to a location without the need for line of sight, visual contact, point-to-point wireless, and say, send a drone to this location, gather imagery, process it on board, and direct it to where it needs to go. I think we'll be there maybe in 5 to 10 years. The military is doing it now, so we just need to get it into the hands of our first responders.
Let's turn around. I see that they're actually up in the air here. Tell us a little bit about how they are working, utilizing the drone now. Describe us what they will be doing.
Yeah, they're conducting a range of missions, from damage assessment, search and rescue operations, infrastructure inspection, looking at bridges, looking at communication towers, looking at staging areas to see where they can put assets. It's getting very crowded as more and more resources come in. So the drones are even doing things like scouting for locations where you can set up an urban search and rescue team, and all the equipment and all the tents and all the logistical support that's needed for them to come in. So the imagination is wide on what drones can be used for. And of course, it's public information. People want to know, how bad is bad? Is my home still there? Is my community still there? Why can't I return home? So when they see aerial imagery from drones showing how bad the devastation is, it starts to prepare them for the fact that they may not have a home to return to at the end of the day.
And it is pretty bad. When we look around us, it's massive.
It's massive. This is on par with Hurricane Dorian in the Bahamas in 2019. This is among the worst damage I've ever seen. And the fact that it's happened here in the US, in Florida, in an area that is so well known in tourism for people not only around the US but around the world, really makes it hit home a bit.
At hele taket på bygningen er tatt vekk. Can you show me the front?
Yep.
I see the roof is all gone here.
Yep.
Dette er altså da stranda I Fort Myers, so dette... Was this used to be a hotel, or...?
This looks like a hotel, yeah. There's lots of hotels up and down the beach. It's either that or condos.
Altså enten hotell eller leilighet, og her ser du altså hele taket ser ut som om fullstendig fjernet. Blåst rett og slett over ende. Vind som har vært over 200 kilometer I timen. And you know for sure that people were not in that area when the hurricane came?
I don't know. I personally don't know.
Her det faktisk ikke noe igjen. Alt bare fullstendig rasert.